I'm going to show you how to put a 2D or 3D layer inside a 3D object using the cross-section properties. Using cross-section has some limitations, but I think you'll see it has lots of possibilities as well. So to follow along, let's go to Working Files, let's go to Photoshop Projects, and go on down to Placing Cross-Section. At the end of this lesson, we're going to put this hat around this man's head. As you can see right now, it's just floating on top of his head, but I'll wrap it around his head using a cross-section. But before we do that, let me show you a couple of other things. I'm going to turn that off. Let's create a new layer. Let's make a sphere. Go to Mesh from Preset, Sphere, like so, and create. I'm going to put the earth on here because it makes it easier to see the kind of limitations I'm talking about. So click on the sphere material, go to the diffuse texture file and replace it. We'll go to the Working Files folder and go to NASA Files and go to Earth like this. And now I want to cut that open using the cross-section feature. So I go to Scene. There's the cross-section feature. Turn that on. It's going to slice it vertically. That's the default thing. I want to slice it along this way here, along the y-axis. Change this to the y-axis. All right, now I want to look inside it, and that's just a little tricky. If you've got the scene selected, it looks for all the world like you can just tip it forward like this. We've got the rotate tool and tip it forward. I can see inside it now. But if I render it, weird things happen. I'll show you. It suddenly pops back down to that horizontal flat look like that. Not what you expect to see, because we turned the scene, not the object. So it's the object that's being rendered here. So let's go back a notch here to the render settings like that. Another way to look inside it, you'd think, would be to select the object itself, right down here to sphere. Let's rotate it by going up here with the rotate tool and tipping it. Watch what happens though. It's like we're just using the little tilt axis inside the scene cross-section properties. I'll show you what I mean. Go back here to scene. There's this tilt thing here where we tilt on the x-axis. The same kind of thing happens. I'll turn off the plane so you can see that it's basically the same. If I want to look inside it, I need to tilt the view, and that's okay. I can tilt the view like that, and we can look inside it. Just so you know, if you want to get inside it like this with a cross-section, you do need to tilt it with the current view, which means the whole ground plane is going to move with it too. But now I want to put something inside there. So to do that, I'm going to make a new layer. Click down here, new layer. And let's create another mesh. Let's not have a sphere this time. Let's make something tall, like a wine bottle. And let's merge that down. So we go over here to the panel menu and go down to merge down. And that'll be inside the sphere. Now, weird things happen when you merge down and you've got a cross-section. It looks like what happened to the cross-section, right? If you go back to the cross-section, turn the plane on, turn it off, there we are back inside it again. And lo and behold, look at our poor little wine bottle. It got sliced off at the ankles. That's because if you apply a cross-section, you're applying it to the entire layer, not just to an object in the layer, so you slice things off in the process. Now, if you can make something that's smaller than the top of the slice there, then that's fine. It can reside inside here without any trouble at all. But if it's taller, it'll get cut off. And you can lift things up. If I go back to scene here, go to offset, we can lift it up, but still the poor bottle is going to get just like that. It goes right to the top like that. So we really can't get the whole thing inside there unless we make the bottle smaller, which of course we can. Let me show you though, there are other ways that you can approach this. Let's take a look at a cube. Turn this one off here like that. Let's make a cube. Go down here, make a new layer. Instead of a wine bottle, let's make a cube wrap. Cube wrap just has one material, which makes it easier to work with for our purposes. Click on the material here. Let's give it some kind of a texture file under the diffuse. Let's see, how about bricks? We got a big brick wall there. And now I want to slice off the front of it using a cross-section. So I go to Scene, go to Cross-Section again. It's going to cut it in half like that. We don't want that to happen. We want to cut off the front. The front is along the z-axis, the one that comes toward us and goes away from us. So let's choose the z-axis here like that. It's going to cut it halfway through the box. But we can use the offset here to pull it toward us like so. Eventually it's going to get to the front of the box and close it. But right before it gets to the front, we can just pull it back like that. And we've got this whole cube in here that we can work with, which is kind of cool. So let's put something inside there. Let's make another new layer here like that. Let's make, let's say, a donut. So go over here, donut, create. Let's give the donut some texture so we can see it later. Donut material. Give it something that we can see down the road. How about this gold thing like that? And let's merge that down, keeping in mind that sometimes when you merge things down, unpredictable things happen. But we'll take this one here and merge it down to the layer below it. Merge it down. And you'll see that torus there, the donut, is huge. Now which layer is the new one? That's layer 4. That's the donut. We can open up to make sure. There it is. Let's shrink that guy down by the scale uniformly guy over here. Hover there till we see scale uniformly. And pull that back until it gets small enough to cut through the front, and then boom, we're inside the box. Then we can tip this guy on its side, for example, something like that. Rotate it around like, oh, there. What's also cool is that you can put a light inside the box. I'm going to add a new light, add a point light. And if you worked with the light lessons, you know that the point light is not right there. It's way off toward us here in the distance from that torus. To put it right smack dab on the torus, I'm going to hold my Alt or Option key down here and click. That puts the light right there. Now I can pull the light down using the drag tool here, bringing it down. I love how it's putting shadows in the corner there like that. When I click away, the shadows will go. Well, I can render them, so I'm going to go get this little selection tool here, the marquee selection, and let's render that area there and see what happens. Ooh, looks nice. That thing at the bottom there, I'm guessing, is because this thing is just below the ground plane, just to guess. So let's click on the layer 3, layer 4 with the controller command key and get the selection tool going here. Let's lift this guy up just a bit. I think it's going to fix it now. Let's render that again. Wow, there you have it. That looks pretty cool. So you can put things inside 3D objects using the cross-section, just as long as the object you're placing inside the 3D object is on the other side of the cross-section, so you're not slicing it off as well. All right, let's try sort of a practical approach to this by trying to put the hat on that guy. Turn this off. Go back down here to the hat and man. You see we have a couple of layers here. We got the hat right there, and we got the man right there. And let's get rid of that selection by doing Control Command D. This hat was provided for our use by TurboSquid. The artist is Leah Ponowitz. This person has created lots and lots of art, as you can see here. More than 100 3D objects for TurboSquid. The goal here is to slice the hat in half and have the front part be in the front of his head and the back part kind of wrapping around behind his head. And we'll get rid of his hair eventually. When you put a hat on, you pull the hair down. This guy doesn't have a hat on, so obviously his hair is sticking up, and we need to deal with that too. Let's see how this works. Take the hat layer like that, and I want to put a cross-section on it. So I go to Scene, Cross-Section. I want the cross-section to be on the Z-axis, the one coming toward us. So here's Z. Turn off the plane. Right now the back is what we're seeing, the inside of the hat looking back. We want the front of the hat here. So I want to switch that around. So I go back to Scene here. We can swap that right here. We have the front instead of the back. And now I want to change the offset a bit so we can cover up some of his head. Try to push it back a little bit. Here's the offset. Let's just push it back. Let's see. All right, like to the point where we're not going behind his ears because that'll look weird. We need to use the back side to do that. Right about there, I think, is what we'll do. Then we're going to just duplicate this layer here. So I got this layer. Controller Command J. I want to put it below him. Now we're not going to see it yet because we need to make a mask out of him. So I'm going to take him and duplicate him, Control Command J for him. Take the main body here, put it below the layer here, so I'll put this up one notch. So we're going to put a mask on this layer here so we can mask this guy's head. We don't have to do a really careful job. We need to just mask enough that we can actually have this hat behind his head when we do the back part here. So I'm going to create a mask here. Let's go and take away that hat for the time being. Make sure this is active. Get the quick selection tool like that, and just select his head here. There we go. That's what we need. A little bit of his ear. And we're going to put the hat behind this. Don't need to worry about his hair right now. Let's make a layer mask there just by clicking the layer mask, and that will just isolate his head there. If I turn off this one in the background, you see we've got his head selected there. Also got this hat behind him. I'll turn that off so you can see what's really selected there. All right, we'll turn this back on. What I need to do now is take care of his hair a bit here. Got to get rid of that stuff there. So I'm going to get rid of that by turning this off here and using the clone stamp tool. We'll just put some grass there. Alt or Option click there to get our sample and just kind of draw here, making sure that we draw on this layer, not on the layer mask. And let's get rid of some hair here. Give the guy some grass for his hair instead. Layer 2 and do the same thing. Get rid of his hair there too. All right, now let's put the hats back on. And the one down here is exactly the same as the one above here. We need to flip that around. So I've got this one selected. We've got the scene active. I'm going to swap this so that we now go from the front to the back. There's the back there. Not exactly meeting at this particular point. Let's take the front right there. We might want to change the offset a little bit. Let's see. Back a little farther. About there, maybe. Let's take the offset for the back. See if we can bring that forward a bit. Something like that. Something along those lines there. I think we need to take the front one back a little bit farther. And there you go. I think you can see that we just wrapped the hat around that guy's ear, which is just a little trick that I wanted to show you. How to take a pre-built 3D object like this and slice it in half. Put the front half in front of something, the back half behind something, or you can put something on top and something on the bottom of something. In any event, how to take a 3D object like this and slice it up so you can wrap it around a 2D or a 3D object.